It is on cultural diplomacy for economic development. So there are lots of different angles how we can take cultural diplomacy, how we can define cultural diplomacy. And we did prepare something for everyone. I hope if you have it. If not, then Marina can give service today. We prepared something. Actually, Prayas, who is sitting back there, the very smart guy, is helping us, and he's recently graduated from William and Mary. He put together a nice write-up on cultural diplomacy in Nepal. And Nepal has been known for cultural diplomacy in lots of different ways because of its art, culture, music, and also Nepalese are known to be laure, so they went, for generations they have been traveling, they went, for economic reasons. The Nepalese left Nepal, rural Nepal, they went to India in army, or they went to British army, and that's how we are called laure. Right? So they could adjust anywhere, put them in any tough condition, they will survive, and they will do good. And so the cultural diplomacy has always been there. Right? So now, they went to the British Army hundreds of years ago, and still the issues are there, and they are trying to resolve. And so we thought, with Ambassador, the idea was that the growing population of Nepalese in US, very fast growing, very high number of artists. I think in per square feet, if we calculate, I think the Baltimore has probably more known Nepali artists than in Nepal in one location. And so we thought we should have on cultural diplomacy, and there are a couple angles that we have put together the program today. And so what we're going to do is the first panel. First panel is going to focus on challenges and opportunities on cultural diplomacy between Nepal and USA. And then we're going to switch to the second panel, and that will be art, culture, and diaspora. And the third panel is going to be our next generation. So we thought this is very important. So we added next generation, because we have our kids growing up here. And I know we have an honorable guest. Let's mention first, Honorable Ms. Komal Oli, Member of Parliament from Nepal. She traveled to Arjun yesterday. Good to have you to us.
Thank you.
And we have ambassadors, Dr. Arjun Karki, Ambassador DeLisi. We have our Councillor, Honorary Councillor Prem Radha Mahaji, our first Nepali Deputy Mayor in US, Kiran, Sitoula, Nepal Desk Officer, and Dr. Vishnu Porel. So if you talk to Nepali diaspora in Nepal, you have to place to Dr. Vishnu Porel and come down. And so we thought it's very interesting to have these young kids to come and say, because they're going to be our future cultural diplomat in this country. I think it's very high number. Their earning potential is going to be much higher than their parents. Their quality of life is going to be different, and they will be in mainstream. And without engaging them, I think it's very hard to talk about cultural diplomacy. And I talked to some of them, they're prepared, there will be a panel. And because legislator is here from Nepal, and here we talk about it, we're representing different organizations. We talk about NRN, they passed the NRN laws. But just my generation knows what this is. The next generation have no idea, and they are the biggest beneficiary of NRN laws. So where are we missing? And there are lots of Nepali organizations. What part we are missing that we are not able to engage these kids, these young generations, and if you look at their profile, some of them are in very high ranked positions in Nepal, US already, they're making a big impact, but we have not been able to engage them, and I think that's also another big challenge. So having said that, we have a panel, and we'll have a moderator for each session. So how we're going to format today is each of the panelists will speak for a few minutes, given how much the panel moderator allows, and then we'll open up for question answer. Moderator will moderate the question answer. Probably they are prepared already. They have prepared some questions. So for very first sessions, I will invite Mr. Kiran Sitoula to be a moderator for challenges and opportunities for cultural diplomacy between Nepal and USA. Okay. And we have a microphone there. You don't need to come to the podium. You can speak from there, however you feel comfortable. And I'll also request our panelists, Ambassador Mr. Scott DeLisi and Ambassador Dr. Arjun Karki. And just let you know if you get out here.
Oh, excellent.
On your right hand side, there's a ladies' room and a men's room if you need to use. Okay. And I'll also request our chief guest, Ms. Komaloli ji, to be on the dais, please. And we have a number of Nepali medias here, e-Nepalese and DC Nepal. I think they're also doing a live broadcast. I think that's okay with us, and it's okay with the panelists. And also I want to thank Embassy of Nepal for partnering on this, because without that, their partnership, it was not really possible. And it's a coincidence, or it's really our opportunity that a known artist from Nepal, who is a member of parliament, she happens to be in US, and she is participating and observing this whole session, and there'll be lots of lessons learned from both sides. So having said that, I will hand it over to Kiran Sitoula.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to IDI for making this event possible. First, I'd like to start off by recognizing the panelists and the special invited guest, Honorable Member of Parliament from Nepal, Ms. Komaloli, Your Excellency, Dr. Arjun Karki, Your Excellency, Retired Ambassador, Mr. Scott DeLisi. Thank you for your time this morning. When we talk about cultural diplomacy, I wouldn't want to go on a specific definition or something. We are from Nepal. We understand what it is, but still we want to make sure that what does the cultural diplomacy? It is such a vast subject. It is such a vast topic. So in essence, it includes the exchange of ideas, information, arts, language, and the other aspects of culture among nations and their people in order to foster mutual identity and understanding. So that is the essence of cultural diplomacy. So today specifically we are going to be focusing about the economic cultural diplomacy. When we look back at our own history in Nepal, if you recall that in order to avoid being gobbled up by, I believe at the time, the Tibetan kingdom, we married off one of our princess Vrikuti to Songtsen Gampo, I believe. That was our first time when we actually, Nepal initiated the known historical record of cultural diplomacy. And after that, all of you are aware of our export of Ornico to China. You know, the pagoda styles that you see in China, the Buddhism that explored out there on the Tibetan side, and these are some of the exports from Nepal that has served us well in times of peace and also in times of war. So without further ado, I would like to hear from our honorable panelists what it means for Nepal to enter into 21st century as a cultural diplomat. So what does it entail? What are some of the aspects that we should be careful about? What are some of the things that are serving us well, and what should we be focusing on? I believe are some of the answers that audience would be looking for. So I would like to request Honorable Ambassador Dr. Arjun Karki to give his opinion, not exceeding more than 10 minutes. I don't have one, I'm not going to time yourself, but I realize you always stick to your time. It is up to you. You pick your, how would you like to do?
Well, all right. Let's see what as you like. Excellent. Good morning, everybody. You know, Mr. Sitoula has framed a very broad question. Cultural diplomacy. Yeah, it's so multifaceted. And we talk about, oh yes, Nepal should engage in cultural diplomacy to advance economic development, to grow its partnerships in the world. And that's what this is all about, right? It's about building bridges. It's about establishing Nepal's identity. It's about building a set of relationships that compel people to want to engage Nepal, to make a difference for Nepal's future. That's easily said, but how do you do this? As a practitioner of diplomacy, of cultural diplomacy over many years, I came to recognize how tremendously important this was from the US side. We could talk all day long about our policies and our beliefs and our values and all the rest, but if people didn't feel it, if they didn't really understand it, and for many folks, these were just words. They say, oh, politicians. They think of diplomats as politicians. Politicians, you all say the same sort of thing. They listen to what a given president might say. Perhaps if they were listening to our current president, they'd have some very interesting perceptions of what the United States really was and what it meant. And could we have a partnership with them? But when we find a way to build a bridge that is truly presents the face of the American people, that presents our values and our core beliefs and our essence, then we begin to find that we have much in common. And this is the thing. Across cultures, we generally have so much that we share. We all want to build a better future for our families. We want our children to live in peace. We want our voices to be heard. We want to see that there's health care. We want all these good things. We have a very common understanding of the world, but we approach it from very different cultural biases and perspectives sometimes. So we need to find ways to break this down. You know, after the trauma of 9/11, one of the most effective things that we were able to do was to tell that story through pictures, through art. We had exhibitions and went around the world called Ground Zero. And it led people to think not just about the war on terror, but they looked at the humanity of this. They looked at the human cost. They understood that these were real people. That when we spoke about this wasn't about some abstract policy issue, but it was about something that had touched all of our lives deeply and had changed our society. That's part of cultural diplomacy. When we engage young people, when we sit with youth in these countries, and we talk to them about our values, about the things that matter, when they come to your home, and when we have in our homes as ambassadors, we have art from America, and we're able to talk about what that art means and how it resonates. And we ask them how they perceive it and how this relates to their own culture. Suddenly you say, oh, we've got some things in common. When we brought the jazz ambassadors, we used to do Jazz Mandu every year. It was a huge event. People loved it. And Prem, you know the importance of music as a tool for cultural diplomacy. Suddenly people came and they saw us and they saw our role differently. And they talked to me not just as an ambassador, not just as His Excellency, but about, oh my God, wasn't that drummer fantastic? And you build relationships. When I would travel in Nepal, and I would post pictures on Facebook, pictures that told a story about my own engagement with Nepal. That's part of cultural diplomacy as well. And suddenly people said, you know what? This ambassador actually cares about Nepal. He likes our country. And it made it easier for me to then engage. Now what for Nepal? As Nepal seeks to engage the world, what are you selling? Why should people care? Why should they be involved in Nepal's economic development or anything else? You are not a huge geopolitical strategic player. You matter, but so do a lot of other countries. Why should we care? You don't have tremendous wealth to offer the rest of the world. Why should people care? We don't come to Nepal to get your resources. We don't come to Nepal to help us counter the Russians or to deal with global terrorism. So we have to find that basis for engagement, and Nepal has to be able to sell this. And this, what you have to sell, one of your greatest assets, is the culture. It's the people. It's conveying to the rest of the world that face of who and what Nepal is. That is why When I was a Nepal desk officer, and Alexis, I don't know if it's still true today, when I was a Nepal desk officer, I used to get calls all the time from people who'd say, I'd answer the phone, I'd go, Nepal desk, and they'd say, hey, dude. I'd go, hey. And it would be some Peace Corps volunteer that had served in Nepal 20 years before, and they'd say, I'm just calling to see, is the country still cool? I'd say, it's still very cool. And they'd say, that's so good, because they cared about Nepal. There's a richness to the culture, a decency, a vibrancy, a tolerance, a compassion, so many things that define this nation, that touch us and that touch Americans deeply. And if you can convey that, if you can sell that, it gives people a reason to care, a reason to want to engage in Nepal. But if you're going to do this, again, it's not enough to just say, oh, cultural diplomacy. We're going to do cultural diplomacy. Again, there's 100 different dimensions to that. All of you can do this individually. Prem, I know you do this all the time with your food and your music and your engagement. You are a tremendous ambassador for Nepal, and you tell Nepal's story, and people are captured by this. This is why you've got these great friends in Fredericksburg, Virginia, who want to continue to be part of building the future with Nepal. And we can all do this individually, but what I value is that Ambassador Karki is looking at this in a broader sense. And as an ambassador, if you can ask yourself, how do we incorporate cultural engagement and cultural diplomacy throughout the full array of the things that we do? And it has to be intentional. It doesn't just happen. But if you say, every program, every activity, where is that dimension that allows us to begin to build a cultural partnership, to build awareness, to build that sense of who we are, and to share this with our audience? That's where you begin. It requires a lot of thought. It requires a constant reevaluation of the effectiveness of your programs, how it requires that you deliver that message to your entire staff within your mission, to your government at home, and to your community. And to ask each and every one of you who cares about Nepal to think about how you can be part of this effort to build this base of support for Nepal in America. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. But I'm going to stop right there for the moment, and happy to answer questions later, but I probably have done 10 minutes, and I want to turn it over to whoever Mr. Sitoula thinks should come next.
Thank you. I think you did really fantastic. Now onwards to His Excellency, Dr. Karki.
Okay. Honorable Komaroli. So again, it is a great pleasure to attend this panel discussion regarding cultural diplomacy between US and Nepal. Thank you, Suman-idi and International Development Institute for collaborating with Embassy of Nepal to organize this event on cultural diplomacy for economic development in Nepal. Friends, Nepal takes a great pride on our multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multilingual composition, and our ability to maintain the unity, not despite our diversity, but because of our diversity. Our diverse population has created a beautiful fusion of culture, resulting in unique art, music, traditional dances, and exquisite cuisine. These aspects of Nepali culture are the critical indicative within the prospect of cultural diplomacy to many of us. In today's world of technology and social media, diplomatic relationship between countries is not limited to what diplomats like us do within our job description. The different subsets of diplomacy have been expanded more than ever in today's age. Nowadays, the recognition and appreciation of culture and lifestyle between two different countries starts from social media and travel experiences through the picture of beautiful landscapes, the vibrant festivals, and delicious cuisine. After the establishment of first diplomatic relationship of the United States and Nepal in 1947, today, 71 years later, this effort to establish the relationship where the population of two countries create a connection through shared interest and values has been easier and more critical than ever. As I mentioned, one of the reasons is the growth of social media and internet use in our countries too. While another and most important reason is the fact that we have representative in each other countries. Today there are more than 300,000 Nepali population residing all over the United States. That is why wherever I go around the United States, I always like to say that I am temporary ambassador and Nepalese residing here in the United States are permanent ambassador of Nepal to the United States. Non-resident Nepalis are very instrumental in promoting the cultural diplomacy and people-to-people diplomacy, in fact, between two countries. There are many Nepalese here. We have opened amazing, authentic Nepali restaurants, art galleries, music and dance training centers here in the United States, further sharing the Nepali culture in American societies. When the NRN live here in harmony with the local population and visit Nepal, they convey the message of friendship between the nations. The fluency of both Nepali and English language within the Nepali population residing here is also one of the important means to promote people-to-people diplomacy. Similarly, the tourists from United States visiting Nepal, as Ambassador DeLisi mentioned, American Peace Corps and study exchange students are all valuable in promoting cultural diplomacy between the US and Nepal. Here we have today our former US Ambassador to Nepal, DeLisi. He is not only a government official, as he mentioned earlier. He is also a cultural diplomat in many sense for many of us who managed to maintain valuable relationship with Nepal and Nepali people even after the tenure expiration of his official posting. In fact, I am invited to attend so many Nepalese events all over the United States, and due to the limitation of time that I have, and in many occasions, in fact, I found Ambassador DeLisi attended more Nepalese events than I was able to attend. So sometimes I joke about it and I tell this to Ambassador DeLisi that he is helping me to do my job as well in many sense. So that's why we considered him. He was Nepal ambassador to US ambassador to Nepal in the past, but now, though not officially, Nepal ambassador to the United States. So yeah, he's very popular among the Nepali diaspora, not only here, but also all over the world. People remember him because he was in Nepal in a very critical and politically sensitive time. He had contributed a lot in restoring peace and democracy in our country. So the kind of job after retirement people like Ambassador DeLisi do in their respective country is job of cultural diplomat. This is what we are trying to say basically this morning. The government of Nepal and Ministry of Foreign Affairs have made significant effort with the help of Embassy of Nepal to promote cultural diplomacy between two countries. The effort includes support for Nepali artists and the collaboration with different non-residential groups to organize events that assist with the promotion of Nepali culture. Similarly, Nepali diaspora in the United States have continued to receive notable support from the government of United States for the promotion of cultural diplomacy and has made positive impact in fostering positive relationship between two countries. Today, I would like to appeal to my Nepali brother and sister here in the United States to preserve our culture and language among future generations, to maintain this alliance of cultural appreciation despite the differences for a long time among Nepal and US. Similarly, I would like to appeal Nepali youth residing here in US to function as a tie in between two countries and promote the diplomatic relationship through cultural exchanges. Dear friend, United States welcomes 10th largest number of students from Nepal. Likewise, Nepal also sends large number of bright minds in the field of medicine, mathematics, chemistry, physics, engineering, and other technological work for the United States. Not only students. We are 10th largest student sending country to the United States. So they are our cultural ambassadors. Correspondingly, Nepal received $156 million in fiscal year 2017 as US aid to Nepal, and $500 million from Millennium Challenge Corporation. Nepal also received one of the largest private sector donations from the United States. US has functioned as a key helping hand throughout the history towards the establishment of peaceful democratic nation and towards the economic development of Nepal for a long time. Let's all hope and make effort to continue this relationship to last long and harmonious in future. Last but not least, I thank Honorable Member of Parliament Komal Oli for accepting our invitation. Aside being a Parliament member, Honorable Member of Parliament Komal Oli is also a renowned artist who has recorded more than 780 songs and published more than 3 dozen of music albums. She has made a huge contribution on promoting Nepali culture through beautiful Nepali folk song throughout her career. Ms. Oli, it is very encouraging to have you here in the United States.
Thank you.
And your presence in this particular event. Thank you very much for your valuable time.
Thank you.
And also thank you all for attending this very important event this morning. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Ambassador. Now on to question and answer sessions. You've heard the esteemed guests here speak about the culture diplomacy. If you have any questions, I think it would be best if you wouldn't mind going up there and asking your questions, so that I think for those who are recording, your voice and questions are clear enough. So please. Yep. Yeah, please state your name for the record so that we can recognize you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Is it on? My name is Lakshmi Vilas Acharya. I just have one small, not a question, but a